Welcome to Wholesome Counseling. Through heartfelt conversations, expert interviews, and practical advice, we'll dive into topics that matter most to you. Whether it's navigating intergenerational conflicts, challenging relationship and family dynamics, or nurturing healthy boundaries, Wholesome Podcast will be your trusted resource for holistic and culturally sensitive guidance to personal healing, growth, and flourishing. It is common for people from culturally diverse backgrounds and families to send financial resources home. Today, what I want to discuss is that importance of setting boundaries and to share some tips to help us navigate this delicate balance, because it's quite a delicate balance. On one hand, we love our family members, we love our loved ones. On another hand, we also have to prioritize our own self-care so that we can be there for a longer time supporting effectively. It is often from this close-knit community conditioning that we have, or a culture, which is all right, that sometimes places that personal financial obligations and family requests. But we sometimes understand that it can often clash with things like personal bills, saving for your future, supporting family members, can sometimes stretch one's financial resources. That can bring some more stress and anxiety. Some family members also could and tend to abuse that, and therefore they make demands constantly, and we find it difficult to say no, and we feel guilty whenever we say no. I'm going to share a story with you in this moment that is going to demonstrate to us how this can have enormous impact on our mental health and what we can do to help us have that safe boundaries. So meet Maya, a compassionate and resilient lady who, like many migrants from culturally diverse backgrounds, face the challenging responsibility of financially supporting family members overseas. Maya's story takes a turn when she confronts the overwhelming pressure and finds herself shutting down emotionally, cutting off some family members, and even blocking their calls and blocking their numbers on her phone. So Maya grew up in a close-knit community where she deeply embraced that cultural norm of providing financial resources to her loved ones overseas. However, as the demands grew and stretched her resources thin, Maya began experiencing emotional distress, guilt, and anxiety. The weight of these expectations became too much for Maya to bear. Feeling trapped and overwhelmed, Maya found herself shutting down emotionally. She started avoiding conversations about financial support, and she started distancing herself from family members, friends, and loved ones who were constantly making demands. The strain on her mental health was undeniable, and she knew that something had to change. So, in that pivotal moment of self reflection, Maya realized that setting boundaries was so essential for her well being. She made that difficult decision to cut off some family members who were not respectful of her boundaries and constantly took advantage of her generosity. Maya understood that protecting her mental health meant prioritizing her own needs and reclaiming control over her life. So, to maintain her emotional well being, Maya made a courageous choice to block certain members on her phone. While this decision was difficult, it allowed Maya to create a safe space for herself and regain a sense of peace. What does Maya's story teach us? It serves as a reminder that managing the complexities of financially supporting family members or friends or loved ones overseas, it requires taking deliberate steps to safeguarding our own mental health. So here are some strategies that I would like to suggest. The first thing, assess your boundaries. Take time to evaluate what boundaries are necessary for your well-being. Coming from a culturally diverse background where we have collectivism versus the Western culture where there is individualism, we tend to have been conditioned to, be collective in our choices and decisions we make, putting the collective together, putting the need of the collective first before we prioritize our own need. It then sometimes means that there is a blurred boundaries in terms of individuation and the collective. What that means is there tend to be a very blurred boundary between your need and what is the family's needs, or yeah, the community's needs. And if we've been conditioned and raised this way, coming overseas where you are all by yourself, you have to provide yourself your physical needs, your spiritual needs, your social needs, your intellectual needs. You are the one generating all of that for yourself. And you find that you are forced to begin to look at and prioritize your own needs, firstly. And that is not being selfish. Understanding your limits and being honest with yourself about what you can afford to contribute is so important. That is the beginning of boundaries, assessing for yourself. For example, if you're working two jobs just so you can support family members' needs, you really want to ask yourself, how far can your mental health or even your physical health go with that kind of a lifestyle? Another thing, after you've assessed your boundaries, you want to now assess your financial situation. And this is different for everyone. Evaluate your own financial health and set realistic expectations. Understand your own limits and be honest with yourself about what you can afford and what you cannot afford. Sometimes, even as adults, we come under peer pressure. We see how that some other friends are probably supporting their families and loved ones overseas, and you probably feel so guilty. But this is that pivotal moment where you deeply reflect and ask yourself and be completely honest with yourself how much you can work, how much you can contribute, and set long term goals. Telling yourself this is my limits and this is what I can do and what I cannot do, regardless of what others around you are doing. The third step is communicate assertively and communicate openly. If you want honest conversations from people, if you want people to engage with you honestly, you've got to start practicing how to be fully honest with people in conversations. And there is no better place to start practicing that than with our family members and our loved ones and friends. So engage in honest conversations about your financial situation. Set clear expectations and boundaries regarding the amount and frequency of support that you can provide. Remember, open communication is key to maintaining healthy relationships. So, by clearly expressing your boundaries and expectations, it will help manage the expectations family members would have of you. I can't emphasize this enough because sometimes some of us that are overseas as migrants, we tend to give our friends and loved ones and family members a false impression. We tend to create this impression that it's all rosy for us overseas. And even when we are having situations that are stressful and frustrating for us, maybe in terms of relationships or even work related frustrations, we don't tend to be open about it with our family members overseas because we don't want them to think that it's not rosy, that we want them to think, oh, I'm fine, we're doing well. Particularly social media doesn't help. We go post pictures of fabulous places, fabulous cars and fabulous wares, and then we are unconsciously misleading our loved ones, thinking that, oh, we are so buoyant and we can afford and to play God for most of our loved ones. So having that honest conversation really helps to let family members know where you are. Sometimes we don't want to feel shame or we don't want to feel like, oh, I don't want them to think I'm not that, buoyant. But you can't afford people pleasing to be something that comes in the way of your mental health. You can't afford to let what people think about you be that reason where you are almost, stretching your resources thin. Another thing is prioritize self-care. Take care of your own well-being by creating a budget that includes self-care expenses. Allocate resources for activities that bring you joy, relaxation, and rejuvenation. Remember, taking care of yourself is not selfish. It enables you to support others more effectively. The next step is seek professional support. So consider reaching out to a counselor or therapist who specializes in cultural issues and can provide guidance on managing emotional and psychological impact of financial responsibilities. Therapists can help you develop coping strategies. Therapists can help validate your feelings and emotions. Therapists can help normalize that, and they can also show you how vulnerable you are. Sometimes I find that people from culturally diverse backgrounds do not value mental health services. We think that it's not necessary and we think that we can cope all right. At the same time, we find it difficult to open up and confide in loved ones and friends. So we are taking it all by ourselves, closed up, not reaching out for support. And that by internalizing a lot of the negative emotions that we are experiencing and we shut down. And sometimes we just have a meltdown and we wonder why. So I will encourage us to seek professional support. They are there trained to support you, particularly when it comes to building boundaries, being assertive, knowing how to say no, the language to communicate no respectfully, being able to prioritize your own self care and not feel guilty about it. Lastly, explore alternative forms of support. Do a research around your loved one's community. Find resources or programs that can provide assistance to your family and loved ones overseas. This way, you can share that responsibility and ensure everyone's needs are met without overwhelming yourself financially. And if you are in a position of authority, depending on your position of birth in the family, some of us are first sons, first daughters, we can delegate some of the care and responsibilities to other members of the family. And this is where I will caution against perfectionism, you wanting to do everything so that the outcome is in a particular way that you want. You can't afford to allow perfectionism to come in at this moment because you're just looking at achieving goals. And when you're not on ground, sometimes you just have to make do with the outcome that comes from the resources that you are sharing. In conclusion, balancing the financial support of family members overseas with one's personal responsibilities can be challenging, but it's crucial to prioritize your own mental health and your well-being by setting boundaries, communicating openly, and seeking support when needed. You can navigate this unique problem more effectively. So remember, it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's essential for maintaining a healthy balance and sustaining meaningful relationships with your loved ones. If this podcast resonates with you and you feel like you need a one-on-one counseling, I do provide one-on-one counseling. Just jump into wholesomecounseling.com and book in a session. I'm here to listen and care and support you. Additionally, if this podcast touches you and you know someone that could benefit with listening, please share this podcast. And I invite you to listen to other podcast episodes as well. Thank you for listening. Bye for now. Thanks for listening. Remember that relationships and family are like gardens. They need constant nurturing and care. Tune in next time to learn more about how to cultivate healthy relationships. Until then, take care of yourself and those around you. If you need some counseling support, make a booking with me at wholesomecounseling.com.